The final house on Ashwood Lane. In a small town, nestled deep in the mountains, an abandoned mansion sits at the end of Ashwood Lane. It was built in the 1800s and became the residence of the rich Ainsworth family. Over a century ago, tragedy struck. Every single member of the family died mysteriously, leaving the mansion untouched for years. Locals avoid the area, believing it cursed. Stories circulate about strange sounds, flickering lights, and sightings of shadowy figures around the house. A local urban explorer, Mark, decides to document the house. Along with his friends, he plans a late-night investigation to uncover the truth about the Ainsworth mansion. As they begin their exploration, strange occurrences escalate. The old house is silent at first, but soon subtle noises echo in empty rooms. Doors slam shut without reason. Their equipment starts to glitch, capturing chilling whispers and ghostly apparitions in mirrors and windows. At one point, they hear a child's laughter echoing from the basement, though no one is there. Mark finds old family photos and journals in the attic, revealing hints of rituals and symbols connected to an unknown cult. The journals describe the family's descent into madness and paranoia, indicating they may have dabbled in the supernatural. Things take a terrifying turn when Mark's friends start disappearing one by one. His flashlight flickers, and he sees figures in old-fashioned clothes, staring at him with empty eyes. When he tries to leave, he finds the doors locked, and it becomes clear that the house itself won't let him escape. In the end, Mark is found days later, wandering down Ashwood Lane in a trance-like state, unable to speak or remember what happened. As he recovers, fragments of the night come back to him. Visions of a ritual, the faces of his lost friends, and the chilling realization that the Ainsworth family never left the house. The unseen binding. It's been a month since Mark's harrowing night in the mansion, but the nightmares haven't stopped. He sees his friends in his dreams, reaching out, calling him to return. Shadows flicker in the corners of his room, and faint whispers echo in his mind, urging him to finish what he started. Desperate for answers, he contacts a local historian, Eleanor, who has studied the Ainsworth family history. She agrees to help, but her research brings disturbing discoveries. Eleanor shares that the Ainsworth family belonged to an occult group that believed in binding souls to objects and places. They believed that certain rituals could extend their lives, or at least their influence. But something went horribly wrong during one ritual. Instead of being bound to objects, their souls were forever trapped within the mansion's walls. Eleanor warns Mark that the house doesn't just trap people physically. It has a supernatural pull on the minds of those who survive it. She suspects this is why Mark feels compelled to return. Despite her warnings, Mark is determined to go back, hoping that freeing the spirits of his friends might break the mansion's curse. Together they prepare to enter the mansion again, this time with specific protective items, a symbol of protection carved from iron, blessed salt, and a small mirror to deflect dark energies. As they enter, Mark is struck by how different the house feels. It's colder, the air thicker, and the silence is so heavy it almost hums. The first few rooms are eerily quiet, but soon they hear a low murmuring, like a chant. As they follow the sound, they see faded shadows replaying moments of the Ainsworth family's lives. The mansion is like a record stuck on repeat, showing fragments of the past in ghostly visions. They reach the library, where Mark first found the family journals. Eleanor is drawn to a particular shelf. She pulls out a dusty book on ancient rituals and flips to a page with a sketch that looks eerily like the Ainsworth mansion. She reads aloud about a ritual to unbind souls, but there's a warning. If interrupted, the ritual backfires, binding the living to the dead. Just then, Mark feels an icy hand on his shoulder. He spins around to find himself face to face with the ghostly figure of his friend Sarah. Her eyes are empty, her face twisted with fear and sadness. She reaches for him, whispering, "They won't let us go. They never will." Before he can respond, she disappears. Determined to end the ritual and free his friends, Mark and Eleanor head to the basement, where the Ainsworths had performed their final ceremony. The air grows thicker, the walls seem to breathe, and shadows slither across the floor. They set up the items they've brought, forming a circle of protection and beginning the ritual described in the book. But as Eleanor reads the final lines, the room shakes violently. Shadows coalesce into terrifying forms, the Ainsworth family themselves, their faces contorted with rage and despair. Mark's flashlight reveals horrific, lifeless eyes and gaping mouths as they lunge toward the pair, desperately trying to stop the ritual. In a final moment of courage, Eleanor finishes the ritual, and a bright light fills the room. The ghostly forms scream, fading away, leaving behind only silence. Mark's friends' spirits appear, their faces serene, and they whisper, "Thank you." But as they leave the mansion, Mark feels a chill in his bones. He realizes that while his friends are free, something has changed in him. His reflection in the mirror flickers briefly, showing the empty, haunted eyes of the Ainsworths. The house may be empty, but its curse now lingers inside him. The haunting within. In the weeks after leaving the mansion, Mark's life takes a dark turn. He becomes isolated, plagued by voices and visions of the Ainsworth family. Shadows stretch across his walls, whispering in his ear, and his reflection occasionally morphs into ghostly faces that aren't his own. Eleanor, now the only person he trusts, grows concerned as his behavior becomes increasingly erratic. Determined to help, she suggests that he confront whatever the mansion left inside him. Eleanor proposes an ancient cleansing ritual from the same book they found in the Ainsworth library. It's a risky ceremony meant to sever supernatural bonds, but if done improperly, it can entrap the person performing it in the spiritual realm. Despite the risks, Mark feels he has no choice. They prepare for the ritual at Eleanor's house, filling the room with protective symbols, burning sage, and placing mirrors around the space to reflect and trap any lingering spirits. As the ritual begins, Eleanor reads aloud from the book, while Mark repeats incantations meant to sever his bond with the Ainsworths. The temperature drops, and the room grows dark. Mark's vision blurs, and he finds himself suddenly transported back into the mansion, standing in the decaying library. He's alone, yet he hears Eleanor's voice faintly in the distance, still reading the ritual's words. Realizing he's now within a vision, or perhaps a nightmare, he searches for a way out. As he walks through the familiar eerie rooms, the Ainsworth family appears before him, one by one, each with a haunting message. "You wanted our secrets. Now you must keep them." Mark realizes that he is not merely in a dream. He's trapped in the mansion's supernatural grasp, as if his soul has been pulled back to finish what he started. In the corner of his eye, he sees his own friends, their spirits still lingering despite the previous ritual. They look different now, haunted, with dark, hollow eyes that convey deep suffering. His friend Sarah reaches out to him, her voice weak. "They wouldn't let us go, Mark. They never intended to." Back in Eleanor's room, she sees Mark's face contort. caught in a silent scream as his body lies motionless. She intensifies her chanting, knowing time is running out. But the harder she tries to bring him back, the more violently he seems to thrash, as if something within him is fighting to keep him under its control. In the vision, Mark finally reaches the basement, where he finds a mirror, the same one he saw briefly in the first ritual. He looks into it and sees his reflection morphing into the faces of the Ainsworths, merging and twisting as if trying to consume him. Realizing that his own soul is at stake, he knows what he must do: destroy the connection once and for all. He smashes the mirror, and with a piercing shriek, the spirits dissolve into the shadows. Mark feels a powerful force leaving his body, and in that moment, he is jolted back to reality. He gasps for air, breaking free from the mansion's grip. Eleanor watches as Mark's body finally relaxes. He opens his eyes, and though exhausted, he feels an incredible sense of relief. The voices are gone, the shadows have lifted, and he feels free. But as he leaves Eleanor's house, he notices a faint reflection in a window nearby. For just a moment, he sees the faint image of the mansion in his eyes. He wonders if he's truly free, or if a part of the Ainsworth curse will always linger, watching and waiting.